I'm just looking around to see how many of you I've met, and there's a lot of new faces, so that's great. My name's Louis, and I run a company where we actually make AI. So I thought today we'd talk a little bit about deploying AI and what it really means and how it's going to change our life. And I talk a little bit about what we do, because that does change lives and it is deployed. So, much better. So you've been watching Star Trek, right, on the screen. And who's a sci-fi person? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I've got lots of explaining to do. So obviously Star Trek, Captain Kirk, modern culture, etc. One of the enemies in Star Trek was these people called the Borg. And what the Borg did, they assimilated people. So what that means is they invaded them, they stuck all their electronics into them, they fused the machine and the human beings, and they took advantage of all the learning. They were a universal intelligence. And universal intelligence is something that Elon Musk has been warning us about. They're going to come and they're going to kill us, they're going to take over the world. I love Battlestar Galactica where the robots kill everyone. Right? So that's what people like Elon Musk have been warning us about. But Elon is actually, nuts as he is, he says some quite interesting things. And that quote is probably true. I remember back in the late 80s or early 90s, Bill Gates wrote a book called Business at the Speed of Sound. And he was talking about email. So at that point, not everyone had email. And he was saying that about companies that didn't have email. So, here's an explanation about universal intelligence and AI. So in Star Wars, you've got things like C-3PO. C-3PO is a translator, if you remember. C-3PO can have conversations, do lots of things, go and fight, take messages, pretty much all of what a human can do. Everyone's seen Star Wars, right? Good. So that's what C-3PO could do. But this is really interesting here. You've got, as my favorite Star Wars character, three humans and 1 robot flying probably quite a sophisticated machine. Now that machine probably had lots of machine learning in it. I'll explain that in a minute. Lots of AI in it. I'm just starting to explain that. But actually, the humans are actually flying it. Because what they're doing is, they're using all the data they've got to make a judgment. And that's something, even here, people are not envisaging the machines are going to do. So what does a judgment mean? Well, let's go back in time now. Let's go back to the Industrial Revolution. So the Industrial Revolution was about 2 things. It was about, number 1, steam power, and number 2, water power. And that propelled things, it moved objects, allowed us to travel better, allowed us to do lots of things. So that was Industrial Revolution 1. Industrial Revolution 2 was Henry Ford. It was automation, it was factories, it was all those mechanisms, a lot of things we're still doing today, whereby we automate processes. So that was number 2, and electricity. In fact, there's a very good book about Thomas Edison, about the electricity boom of the late 1900s. So it's very interesting. The same thing keeps happening. And then you've got the 3rd Industrial Revolution. So the 3rd is all those things we've been talking about today. The 3rd is all those islands. So the internet, Facebook, computers. But then they've been going for a long time, those computers. I remember as a kid going into my dad's office and seeing computers, and I'm not that young anymore for some strange reason, even though, especially as my children tell me that. So that's the 3rd Industrial Revolution. But now we're at the beginning of the 4th. Now the 4th is interesting. That's what 5G is for, so everything can talk to each other. Lots of hundreds of thousands of little mini computers can talk to each other and converge. It's about biological computing. So what's biological computing? I've got a friend, and He made a lot of money from the internet, from gambling, and he's investing all of his money in human-computer interfaces so that you can control computers with this. And he's doing really well with it. It's like, it seems on a trajectory where it's going to happen a lot quicker than we want or thought. Remember the Borg at the beginning? That's what they did. They fused it. It's about the machines all talking to each other. And, this is the and, this is what differentiates it from the three. And making decisions by themselves. Imagine the factory floor, all the robotic arms, all the sensors are there, all the heat sensors, millions, and the robot finds there's some crush on the conveyor belt. So different machines come on and fix it. The robot does it by itself. Does that sound particularly futuristic? No? Yes? No? Possible? You're accepting it? The way all this technology fits together. And those are the solutions that we have to design for. Now, it's very interesting. I wrote this at the last minute. Last night, I got home at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I hadn't watched it all the way through till Ed found me a spelling mistake this morning. And my wife does theology. She didn't go to university, and she's doing a theology degree at Durham. And she was up there writing an essay. And it was like, and then she said, I'm knackered. She said, will you just look at this page and tell me what it says? Can you summarize it for me? But what the page said was, it's not just good enough to think anymore. It's not good enough to think and have ideas anymore. What we need is, we need to be able to make the plan to enact those ideas now. That's how we get respected. So I can't just do physics, have the apple drop on my head and write the formulas. I've got to do something with it now. And that's the thing. We can use machine learning to make predictions. So you have a huge amount of data. You've had data for years. I remember learning at university about IBM's machine card machine. I don't know whether you learnt about that. They had loads of cards with holes in it. They went through this machine and it did stuff with the data. That's machine learning. It did stuff with the data. We have more computer power. That means we can do more with the data today. And most of the applications which I come across are machine learning. I really don't come across much AI there. And you always know when you listen, how you know to listen for it? People are going to tell you about AI using data and blah, blah, blah. No, that's machine learning. What AI is, when you say, well, we designed this to be like a brain. I came across a guy who had it's Lucid, I can't remember the Dragonfly. We came across a company called Dragonfly I did a talk with, and I spoke to the founder, and he said, well, I didn't use any data. What I did instead was I made an algorithmic model of the eye. So I built what the eye sees algorithmically, with all the, I could talk neurons, but I don't really, it's boring, right? And from there, he was able to process and make decisions by itself. Oh yes, he used the data afterwards, because that's the machine learning part. But it's very different to AI. So, let's talk about 4 here. 4 is, well, I've just explained machine learning, right? So we know that's about gathering huge amounts of data. So you're all something to do with CX, communication, all those other things, everyone in the audience, is that correct? Right, so we've all got like terabytes and the next level that I can't remember because I just tell stories, I'm not that technical. So lots of data. And that's where the machine learning comes in. We can do stuff with it. Now what about the web? I've got a web sign here. So in this particular case, we're looking at, I think we have like 5 million unique website visitors across our site a month. And we get all kinds of data from that. But also it's the front of it. So the front of it, you go to a website, go on your phone, you read it, and you read the text, don't you? Yes? And you do verbal, anybody got kids at school? So, or you remember verbal reasoning tests? So you do that, actually, understand that with actually machine learning, because it's to do with frequency and relativity and all other kinds of things. Not very much AI for natural language processing. It's all using the data. So if you had a machine that could read and understand, that's a big part of it. And that's machine learning. Now, I've got a gender-neutral person there, and that's a chatbot interface that's not very clear, okay? So those people in this dynamic are inputting data. They're making requests, okay, like you do on a chatbot. And then the AI bit. Decide by yourself what happens. That's AI. So I'm going to show you that in practice, okay? Real technology that's really out there that does it. So let's go to the next one, Ed. Oh, thank you, Ed, for pushing the slides. Oh, I didn't realise I did that. I just had to get it in, right? Right, so the tech is called Amy. It saves money, increases sales, and most importantly, it makes people happy. It makes clients happy because the software, remember, reads by itself and understands. It makes customers happy because there's someone there 24/7, the responses are really instant, the conversations are non-linear. You want to go off and you want to talk about what's the weather going to be like in Dubai when you're booking the flight or the hotel. Just go off and tell you. You want a joke to be told to you, just like you can sell a joke to someone in a call center, Amy can tell you a joke. She can do whatever you want. So here's an example. So Emilies Holidays let's let it run a minute. Emilies Holidays was a client we've had for 14 months. They have now said, you're going to go global, Louis. So we're in 3 of their territories with holidays, and by the end of next year, we thought it would be this year, but they were slow, we'll be across the portfolio of Emirates and English. So here is an interesting question. I want to book a holiday to Dubai, but are transfers included with holidays? Hold on. Book a holiday and transfers. So here you've got a decision that Amy's made, because she knows this site and their customers, to display the transfer information first, rather than the first question, because she knows she's likely to convert more. Here comes the machine learning. Okay, let me find a few questions. Notice she thinks, not just types. She thinks because it is a different process, but she also thinks because we found not by having typing, you actually get a better response rate. Just that much. This is an interesting answer. There's a 6 and a dash, which is difficult to understand. And there's 2 answers in one. There's an answer and a question. Amy, people tend to, when they book their holidays, vomit out information once they've said, yes, I can help you. I want to go with my dog, my mother-in-law, my grandson, my child, shall I carry on? And Amy can dissect it and work it all out. But sometimes she'll reaffirm, like, a number and a dash is quite interesting to understand. So she's confirming. Okay, that's an interesting question. Children. So we've got a number of people, right? So Amy's taken a punt that it's going to be someone with children because of the profile of data she's got. But she asked the question, do you have children? So she doesn't know. But she's learnt that's a good response in this conversation. She's prioritizing the lead now, because this client has different rules as to the hotness of the lead, depending on the busyness of their call center. So depending on the day and the time of day will depend on how Amy routes that inquiry to the other systems that she integrates with. Bang. Cool? I'll say something more cool now. We like that quote from a client. That was a long one. We like that too. Both these quotes, incidentally, we phoned out the client and asked them and they went to Ed, we've already given a couple of quotes and there's something on our blog. So we didn't even ask. So that's better in my book. All right, now we're on the Stockport website. She's midway conversation, and she's going to help with the bins collection. But that's the real point. On websites, so councils, bin collections, I don't know, polling station locations, we've got travel prices on different sites, we've got a car reg using a lookup on TfL about to go, shall I carry on? We all use these resources on websites without thinking about them to get data. Amy sees it as the same. So Amy sees website resources as a source for her data. And she knows to go make the decision to fetch the data and decide to use it in a conversation to keep the conversation flowing. So what she's done now is she's pulled the page in the background. No point me talking. Is Jonathan in here? Can we get Jonathan? This is fun. I tell you why it's fun, okay? So do you want to, let's do this next, and then you'll see why it's fun. So everyone says to me, what do you do, Louis? And I said, we make conversations. I explain about the reading and other things. And then they go, oh yeah, it's a chatbot. So now I'm going to say why we are not a chatbot. Or maybe we are a chatbot, but we have intelligence. So anyone here did any programming? Build chatbots from data? No? Well, it's literally if, then, else. So it's like a multiple choice test. It's quite simple. It's very, you have to work out every variation. I'm going to tell you, I think we should let it run. I'll tell you a story. There's a lady called Sophie at Marks & Spencer's who runs their chatbots, plural. And we had a meeting with them because they're going live in January. And we went, oh, we're going to use Amy for this. She looked at me like the worst thing I could possibly have told her. They were going to have this interface on a website. She has a team of 17 people updating the chatbot, doing variations, testing things with it. Now, it has saved some money in call center staff, but it was painful to her in order to keep up with it. And then when we said, actually, we probably only need half a person, just to look through all the conversations Amy's having, she again started to respond and be relaxed and chilled out with me. So, hence the chatbot. So, Amy reads and understands the websites. So now we're going to have a bit of fun. So what we did was, we went to the Botanic About Us page and a certain gentleman's LinkedIn page who I'm standing next to.
Oh dear.
Right? And we put that into a blank page, blank WordPress page, which had nothing in it, okay, on our website just because it was easy. And we asked, for example, just to show you it's blank, I want you to notice the clock in real time. There's no editing here. We asked who found a Botanic. And then we took a few words from the site. There's a nice timeline, which is really difficult for a machine to understand. I think we're on Jonathan's. No, we're pasting it into WordPress. Is everyone familiar with WordPress? He's gold on LinkedIn. I think I am too. All right, now, look, another page. Oh, so that's from Jonathan's LinkedIn. I didn't tell him about this, by the way.
Yeah, I've got that wry smile on my
I know. I thought it'd be fun, though.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Watch the clock, okay? Right, so we'll just go back a fraction, Ed, please. Just a fraction to hitting that submit button. Okay. So watch the clock, okay? Push play. Where's the update button? Where's the mouse? There we go. I didn't see the update button. It must have been a second ago. Hey, Refreshes the page. So what he did was he turned the conversation off with Amy. He refreshed the page so the information was available. Now, push pause, please. It was like let's say it was 6:30:00, okay? Just for the sake of a reference point. Now, remember what I said about AI, the difference between AI and machine learning? So Amy's designed like our brain. So what she literally does, and it's very, very quick, she flashes through a website and goes, all right, I've got it. I know where everything is that I've got to talk about. And then what she does is she knows where to look for the question. Now, obviously, this is all on one page, but she understands contextually first. So where the customer is having the conversation is the place she looks and prioritises the answer from. Because that's likely, there's a good indicator, like our brain, like I'm talking to you. I know who likes Star Wars and Star Trek here already. So that's how she prioritises, like this. She just uses the machine learning. So let's go. Our story, 30 years of creativity, vision, I see I'm dyslexic, and technical prowess. Now, how can I help you today? You've got, who founded Botanic? Now, I just want to stop there, okay? Because stop being a human and start thinking about a machine. Who? It's an interesting concept, isn't it? Who goes there? I can think of many uses of the word who. Who founded Botanic? Well, I've got to look for a person, haven't I? I've got to understand that. So that's quite interesting. Let's go next. Let's roll it. Stop. When? That's a difficult word as well, isn't it, if you actually think about it from a machine perspective? When? That's not particularly difficult. No, this is a good one. Remember 3:30:00? It's slower to type than it is to do anything else here. All right, let's let the answer roll. All right, famous. Yeah, I want to be on X Factor, not particularly. I want to be famous. I want to be a B-list celebrity on Instagram, not particularly. But I guarantee, Jonathan, it doesn't say famous anywhere on the site, does it? I know it doesn't, I checked. Right? So famous is a really interesting word. So we've got to make an association of famous. And there's content about, you can't see it, have you got it on the browser or not? So there's content about the BBC phone system. And Amy has to make that jump. So Amy knows that BBC is actually media. Amy knows lots of different things that she's able to make that association. Now, we haven't done anything here. Remember, it was empty, and Amy just understood. Let's keep rolling. And if you look on the site and read it, when, time again. Not that sexy of a question, but quite interesting.
Oh, I guess that, yes, that's maybe.
Let's keep playing it. All right. Where it doesn't say, as I checked, on the Botanic site, which brands they work with. Let's keep going. It does say on Jonathan's site, and it says what brands Jonathan works with, because it's a personal profile. It's not a business profile. We pasted both into Amy together as one long piece of text. So Amy was able to decide, even though it said Jonathan on a big header, that those were the relevant brands. This is instant read. There's no refinement here. Keep going, Ed.
It comes back, knitting, crocheting bowl hat.
That's on my Facebook page. You didn't use
We
it.
weren't allowed to. I thought I'd protect Jonathan there. Okay. Stop, pause now. What are Jonathan's strengths? Okay, now you've got two sets of keywords, haven't you, on your profile? You've got 5 or 6 at the top, and then further down you click more. There's lots of things about Jonathan that he has skills in. Now we use the word strength here. Jonathan writes his speciality is. And if you were to look at the profile, these are all associations with the word speciality, because it's a similar kind of word, and it's verbal reasoning, just like the verbal reasoning from your kids. So Amy does that to the reading age of 13, and it's instant. Keep going. I like excellent, didn't you? I thought I'd give you a punt here, Jonathan. It's good, isn't it? Should we pause and have our hands up? Okay, go on, play. Okay, stop there. That wasn't the answer you'd give, is it? Necessarily, as your first question. Right. So remember, you've got the About page and on Jonathan's page, and you've got a timeline. And that's actually quite difficult for Amy to decide. Business typos, yeah, that's a given, and stuff like that. Amy chose it because, first of all, it was recent. An award was good. Yeah, it's good to win an award, so she's made that decision. There's a timeline on the site as well. This is right at the top that they won an award this year. Therefore, there's a concept of time that we saw earlier. So she applies the concept of time to prioritize an answer. And she knows she's taking a bit of a risk. In the back end, this will say, is this the right answer when we come to refine Amy? Which has got all that verbal reasoning. So if I get back to my example at the beginning, you've got all this machine learning that gives you the natural language processing, that gives you this ability to analyze, understand keywords, think about sentiment in the conversation instantly like a machine. You've got the humans are one of the inputs into my for. The humans provide the input into the chat window. But Amy is actually driving the conversation. And then machine learning, human input, yeah, all four things. It's autonomous. She does it by herself. Yes, we have concepts of AI like reinforced learning. That's an example of reinforced learning. We go, is this the right answer? Please tick yes. But over the time, when she gets those answers and she builds up that data for machine learning, she'll pick a better answer. But that's not the clever bit. The clever bit is there's no database. There's no priority. It's all a straight line. It's flat. All a straight line. And it's using that information by itself. That's why it's for. And it's this kind of system you want at work. You want to be presented with the ability to give a judgment. You want to be presented with data, that's how Amy presents it, about what happens with certain keywords and sentiments and things that are happening in your conversation. I'll never forget I used Marks & Spencer's again as the example. We were in there and they went, so will Amy be able to identify there's a problem with my website before we know? And I'm like, no, I don't see it. And they went, well, in her reporting, she will identify that if the images aren't showing, lots of people are talking about images. Make sense? Assisting the humans, connected to the humans, all working together. Let's roll on it. So that's pretty cool, yeah? Now, go back to our mission statement. So this is there. We're having great fun. Customers are enjoying Amy. She's getting out there. Her user base is growing. We're very proud and pleased of her. We see her as our colleague with whom we work every day, because that's how the relationship goes with all the customers. And we're very excited about next year. We've got lots of people who said yes, and we're having people say yes right now. I've got one to tell you about. And that's not what we're doing this for. We're doing this for something, make a bit of money and feed my kids. But really, it's not about that. It's about the people we want to do it for, rather than the corporations we want to do it for. Yes, we want your customers. Yes, we want to do it. Yes, we can help with customer satisfaction, sales, customer service, and all those things. But I want to be able to ask on my phone intelligently and have not Siri read out things and not Alexa say things with her skills, not that. I want to know whether it's better for me to book on EasyJet 3 weeks before my trip to Alicante or tomorrow. And I want people to be able to access that data using Amy. And we want to give the power, and this isn't ideal, we want to give the power of all that big data, deep learning, whatever other words we hear about it, to me and you. To be able to get that information that people are using maybe against us to get more money from us, but we have an ambition. If we win this race, if we do it, we're working hard, so it turns around. Because that would be really good use of connectivity, computing, AI to help us, machine learning. And every time I say that in a meeting with a big client, the people nod. Yeah, I'd like that. Any questions? Did it so well I can go home?
When you did your semi-live demo, and what happens with spelling mistakes and that kind of thing, and bad grammar, abbreviations, all of that kind of thing? How it's always a if-then-else statement. It always is. But how do you get that going?
Well, Amy has got various knowledge of various spelling mistakes, as you would expect any computer program that deals with natural language does.
Right.
But Amy has an advantage in those. She has got the context of the page, which she's reading and talking about, and she has the context of the conversation to make an assumption. Make sense? Just like we do on WhatsApp.
So would you say that AI is way behind machine learning in terms of its deployment?
Yes. We don't see, people tell me they have AI, and we don't see, when we really get dirty with them and really have a good conversation with them, they're doing great things with machine learning, but we don't see that much AI. Remember, AI is a term that was coined, I can't remember the lady, I think it was about 52, wasn't it? There was a lady with a group of professors from Stanford that really spoke about AI in the way of the modern, or Cornell, spoke about AI in the modern context. So that's when it was really coined.
You talked about Stockport Council. You said 95% cost reduction.
That was their quote, yes.
I was just curious about that because that seems like a fantastic achievement. And is there any more detail of how that cost saving was achieved?
Afterwards, talk to Ed. He deals with them on a daily basis.
Okay. So I work in the local authority sector and it didn't feel as though take-up's been that great at the moment, so that's a real good case study.
It's a great, I've got a whole case, a series of quotes, about 12 quotes from them in a PowerPoint. I don't have to do the selling bit. They cover all the points in my sales pitch. I can certainly share that with you afterwards.
Thank you.
Sorry, being greedy. I just want to understand, so machine learning is data in and tweaking and then eventually it gets a bit intelligent, like a chatbot. With AI, surely there is some human input to the whole thing, maybe further back in the chain. So what is the actual difference between the two?
I'm really simplistic in it personally, non-technical simplistic. AI makes decisions.
Okay.
Machine learning finds out about stuff. I could tell you a story. An acquaintance of mine, because he is married to an ex-girlfriend of mine, is the MD of a large supermarket, robotic supermarket. And we were having a dinner about 12 or 13 years ago at some charity event. And he got a bit annoyed about how much I was talking to his wife, but we carried on talking. And he said, look, I've just spent millions of my company's money with McKinsey, with Bain, with all those kind of organizations because I need a prediction. I don't know, I'm MD or CEO of a FTSE 100, whatever it is, and I need predictions. And so it's worth me spending all that money so I can decide on the direction I want to take my company. And he made a decision to go with the robotics rather than the supermarket chain. And what happened was, the next thing I knew about it, it said Tim got bonus of a nauseating amount of millions. It's one of those, I wished I'd have done it, been in there. And I phoned him up and went, well done. And the predictions that cost him a fortune is what machine learning should do for your business. Making the decision Tim did, that's the AI. Does that make sense? I've got another example, a contrasting example. There's an independent supermarket somewhere near Calais, and this comes from the Economist AI edition, where I got the information from. So this independent supermarket, they decided to pull all their data of all their stock, anything they could find in their business, all in one place. And what they did with that data is they wanted to go home early on Friday afternoons. That was the stimulus for doing it, because Friday afternoons was when they did their ordering. So they applied deep learning, machine learning, whatever data science into this data. It included the weather, and with that data, they were able then to make the software didn't decide, they decided, because it gave them predictions on sales based on the data out. They now did their ordering on Thursday morning. Their sales increased, I can't remember, by a significant percentage, and they had less disposal of out-of-stock items. And again, if you're going to use, that's what Amy does. Amy takes all that data, she makes predictions about what she's going to say, checks it against the data, and sometimes checks it back with us for the reinforced learning about whether Jonathan's famous or not. Make sense? But other people in here who are more technical are going to give you a different explanation. For me, I just want to be able to talk about it simply.
So does Amy learn from the sort of success of the interactions with the customer as well?
Yep.
So what does it do with like conflicts between that and the information that it's reading from?
So what happened? Amy's motivated. We've taught Amy to be motivated by goals. By goals. So a goal might be not to talk to the call centre about, I don't know, returned items. For Amy to be able to deal with it entirely without reaching out to a human. And she'll judge, for them she'll take lots of criteria about making that goal successful. So she'll change the conversation, she'll do all kinds of things to see so the customer ultimately is happy. Another goal would be, as you saw, to create a qualified lead that should be put forward to the call centre today. So, because they're about to spend today, and it's over 10 grand. That was 12. So it's over 10 grand. So we just say, Amy, this is the goal. And then she can output to the shopping basket, the calls, whatever she wants. And then sometimes we've now got systems and information so that if you tell us the sales value and you let us see our linked into Salesforce or your e-commerce, whatever it is, and we can then use that in her goals, about basket size, etc. And that's how she benchmarks herself.
And you set those goals?
We do it with a client. So
that Emirates example, Amy wasn't taking the orders as such, just prioritising high-value ones,
yeah.
passing it on to an actual person.
Correct.
And then does the deals.
She doesn't deal with money herself. It's not something we want to build at the moment. We will get to it. But we also don't believe that necessarily you're going to want to pay for something within your conversation. There is a use case for it in China with Weibo and this, that, and the other. But at the moment, it's not something we want to prioritise. We are doing translations though. It's coming really soon. We just prioritised it ahead of WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger. So we've got a queue of people. We've got to do Welsh first for some strange reason. We've got a queue of people who want it, so we are about to do translations. Welsh is difficult.
Yeah, that's a big push for it.
I can't even lie. I'm quite dyslexic and I can't even try. I don't even bother trying to pronounce it. Any more for any more? Cool. Thank you for listening. I'll be around for a little while. Oh, I've been told to push the reward. Oh, yeah.